I was desperate, at the time I was 17, 18, unemployed, and I was desperate to get a break. And I knew that if I did get a try, I would grab the chance.
I think it was always going to be boxing. The minute I stepped into the gym as a 10 or 11 year old, boxing just took hold of my heart straight away. I love everything about the sport of boxing.
Hello, I'm Marie Crowe, and this is the We Become Heroes RTE Sport podcast, exploring how elite athletes and sports people reach the top of their game and lessons that they learned along the way. My guest today is three-time All-Ireland winning Tipperary hurler, Paidí Maher. Paidí, you're very, very welcome. So we're still in the middle of the pandemic. How is life for you right now?
Yeah, Marie, I suppose it's tough, like for everyone else, really, kept going at work and that, but just like everyone else, kind of striving just to get back to a bit of normality and, just back to normal everyday life for us all, really, be able to meet our friends and our outer circle of our family, really, I suppose the small things that we took for granted before, we're just kind of pining for them kind of moments at the moment, really.
Big time. And what about being a guard? Like, obviously, people have really relied on the frontline workers and people like yourselves. What's it been like being a guard in a pandemic?
Yeah, I suppose it's always busy, but it's probably been more busy the last 12 months, really. And it's been strange. I suppose all our kind of working hours, our rosters, we call it, has been changed due to the pandemic and kind of longer days and that. But look, it's fine. We're kept busy, and I suppose we're very lucky to be able to get up and get out the door and go to work. A lot of people are kind of pinned down in their homes and not getting to see many people, I suppose. So in terms of that, I suppose it's positive that we get out and about. I suppose some bit of normality and get to go to work every day. But look, it is tough going. But look, there's obviously just people in tougher positions than we are. In the HSE and doctors and nurses and people in hospitals are having way tougher times than we are. So look, we're just trying to keep up our end of the bargain, I suppose. Be there for everyone and show some support to the community as much as we can through these tough times,
Well, you're looking fit anyway. What's it like trying to keep the fitness going and the motivation and all the rest when we're still in a bit of limbo and everybody's by themselves, really?
Yeah, I suppose it's tough. I suppose we're so used to going out in groups of 30, 35 fellas, training 3-4 times a week, whether it's the gym or the field. But now we're kind of left to our own devices in terms of looking after our own preparation and keeping fit ourselves and on our own without having the group of fellas you usually have. So it's strange, but look, I think everybody, no matter if you're a GA player or a sports person or just a normal person on the side of the street, everyone's keeping fit, I think, because it's the only way of getting out of the house and I suppose keeping the mind fresh and I suppose mentally keeping, on top of everything in your everyday life at the moment is tough. So that bit of exercise and that, I think it's easy enough for us to go out and do it. But it's just, I suppose we're so used to, having something to aim for and train for that. I suppose it is a bit frustrating at the moment, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, everything might straighten out and we might get back to a bit of normality in terms of, playing games.
I think everyone's looking for a little bit of motivation. So I'm going to go through your career from day dot and just try and find out how you ended up becoming somebody who was top of their game, playing for their county and winning All Irelands, which is no easy feat. So just like when you were young, like what was your very first earliest memory of sport?
Yeah, I suppose, one kind of moment or game that kind of sticks out in my mind actually, and you might smile at this, was actually 1997 All-Ireland final, Tip and Clare. I suppose that game was kind of really got me attracted to playing hurling. I suppose I was 8 or 9 years of age. Tip being All-Ireland and I suppose my parents really driving the GAA sport side of things into us. And that's the kind of first game I really remember properly. And unfortunately, we lost by a point that day. But that's kind of one that really sticks out in my mind, and that kind of really got me, I suppose, thinking along the lines of, that's where I want to go, and that's what I want to do when I grow up. So that kind of really is my first real sport memory that I can properly account really for.
I think a lot of us are probably in the same boat looking back on the 90s hurling like as a very special time. And I don't think we look back at it with rose-tinted glasses. Like, it was just excitement. It was mayhem. There was just so much that came with it. I think no matter what county you were from, it just brought so much drama. But obviously when you're from Clare, it did bring the glory days as well, which was brilliant. So you're 8 or 9 and you're getting into hurling. When did you first realise that you had talent for it?
I suppose when you got picked for primary game schools back in 2000, I think I played primary game the Munster final 2001. Tip played was it Limerick, or I can't remember who they played below in Páirc Keeve, but I played primary game that day, and I suppose when you kind of get noticed and then kind of small little things, you kind of feel like, oh, I know people are watching me, or they must be watching me for a reason, and that. So, and then as you progress up along, in the club, we always had a pretty successful club underage, and my juvenile club, Thurles Sarsfields and Thurles. So, I suppose we were always getting to latter stages at the championships and them. So I kind of felt like, we could go somewhere, if I stuck at it and that, So it was kind of from the early years really that, I felt maybe if I can stick at this, that I could go somewhere, and that possibly that dream of, as I said before, watching the lads in 1997 All-Ireland final, that I possibly could get there if I stuck at it. But it's just the small things like being picked on a primary game panel, and maybe a development squad in the county, that under 14, that you kind of said, look, I'm on the right track anyway, but it's a long way to go. But that's kind of around that age, 13, 14, I kind of felt maybe I could go somewhere if I stuck at it hard enough.
So what did you work on when you were young? Can you remember? Like, what kind of areas of your game did you maybe put a little bit more time into than others? Or even just, I suppose some people like doing different things as part of their game. But what for you was the thing that you felt that you had to work on?
Well, I suppose like any young person playing, any sport, that, when I was younger, I never left a hurley on my hand, like same as all my friends and a lot of my cousins and that. And no matter where we went, the hurley came with us. I suppose it's gas. We were probably practicing every day and knowing to ourselves, whether it was off the wall or over on the hurling pitch with a group of friends, or, and it's kind of something that probably got us there, got us to the quality of what we needed to be to, progress in the game. And it's gas then as you get older, then you might negate that as small, because the gym comes into it, and fitness and strength and conditioning comes into that. You might negate the simple things like going poking in a wall alley or something. So I suppose, announced to myself, I was working a lot on just the hurling side of things, skills side of things, that day in, day out, you were always going to a wall or an alley with friends, or the hurling pitch, and simulating different types of situations. So when you're that age, you don't really concentrate on, I need to get strong, and I need to get big, and that. It's just more this kind of, you want to play with the ball, and the skills are the more important thing. And I suppose basically I was doing that announced to myself, really.
I know in 6 Mile Bridge, it really is just all hurling. Like, there's the hurling pitch and everybody plays hurling. Did you play any other sports?
Yeah, sure. I was actually played a lot of football as well, underage. I suppose right up until I was 21, really. Right up until Liam Sheedy kind of gave me a phone call back in the winter 2008 to join the Tipperary panel. That's when I finished up playing football, because we were already playing in the club. Now, it wasn't taken as serious, but we were pretty successful at it. But as soon as Liam rang me that time to come in, that was into that. It was all just directed towards hurling and trying to play senior hurling. So yeah, football was major in our underage developments. I would have always actually thought that football helped us hurling wise as well in the club, and that, in different scenarios and in our fitness and that. So football, and I was a keen golfer as well. I used to play golf a nice bit, definitely a couple of times a week, right up until, I suppose, until I was 18 or 19, when the time started to go away from me then, because going back to the earlier point, Liam Sheedy's demands were getting greater and greater. So something had to give. So my golfing career ended around 18 or 19. But yeah, up to then, it was golf was a major part of my life too, along with football.
And in terms of, like, obviously a lot of hurlers are good golfers as well. Like, was there any potential in you to perhaps take it a little bit further? Or was it just something that you enjoyed?
Actually, just something I enjoyed, like, but I would have played a lot of competitions in the local club and that, but obviously I wouldn't, for the time you need to, take it really serious. I just didn't have the time to do that, but it was something really enjoyed, and obviously, like a lot of players playing hurling or people playing hurling, it does come a bit natural, the golf side of things. So I did find it a bit easier, but no, nothing. I didn't have the time to take it on another level or anything like that. I wasn't looking at a career in golf by no means anyway.
I know that you are into quite a wide variety of sports, just even watching and as a sports fan. But just like when you were growing up, who was your hero then, your idol?
Yeah, like I would have had a few GA players, like I suppose around the late 90s, early 90s. Obviously, Tommy Dunn was a major part for Tipperary, and he would have always been someone looked up to. There have been various club players as well that I looked up to, but I'm a mad Leeds supporter, Leeds United supporter, but there's one man that always sticks out in my mind, and it's always someone that I always said that I always want to be like. I'd like to be like him. Is Roy Keane. Just even though he played for Manchester United, and I wouldn't have supported him. He was just someone that I was always my attention was attracted to him the whole time, because I just thought he was outstanding, and the way he went about his business, and especially with Ireland around that time, before Saipan, I thought he was just he was just a hero of mine. And again, you're talking about the around of '97 All Ireland, sticking out in my mind, the game against Holland in 2001 in Lansdowne Road, and more or less got Ireland to the World Cup. And he was unbelievable that day. And games like that and moments like that just stick out in your mind and kind of say, he really is someone to look up to. And yeah, he would have been a big sporting hero of mine as I was growing up.
It's interesting hearing you say that, because I imagine now that, like, you've been that hero for many young boys and girls within the county and around the country. Like, are you kind of aware of that as well, that like you're making an impact on people? You could be somebody that is getting young kids into the game, or even keeping them in the game.
Yeah, I suppose you have to be. I suppose it's no different to when I was growing up. There was various, as I said, Tommy Dunn was one of them, with various Tipperary players that at the time, Owen Kelly was starting out as well, that you would say that you'd always, I suppose, they'd motivate you to want to be in their position, So, look, I've no doubt that many of us on the tip panel at the moment are, to younger 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds are saying that, they'd love to be in the position of what we're in at the moment and being in that privileged position. So, look, I suppose there always is a few eyes on you, but it's not something that you really think about. Well, personally, I don't think about too much, because you've enough to worry about yourself, as in regards getting yourself in the best possible preparation. But I suppose, look, you do know that you're, I suppose, giving people a bit of motivation and I suppose direction in their sporting careers, that they want to go down that route, down that path. So hopefully we can do it positively and not negatively, really.
Are you finding now that when you're meeting people on the street that they're not asking you about Tip Hurling, they're asking you about the pandemic?
Yeah, usually the question I get at the moment is, when will we be back? When will we be back? Like, we as in everyone, I suppose, supporters, players, everyone is just mad to get back to, attending games and watching games again, So I think we're all under one boat in that sense. But yeah, usually it's just me inside the street. Well, are you training, number one, and when are we going to get back hurling, number two? So look, we're all frustrated a bit in that regard. But look, as I said, hopefully, we'll get through this next number of months and we'll all be back where we want to be in our happy places, whether it's Central Stadium or Crow Park or wherever it is, we'll take it.
So you're one of the people that, I guess, from when you were quite young or like in your late teens, you were earmarked as being someone that had a lot of potential and would go on to probably do really good things. And a lot of that was because you marked some really big names pretty early on, like the likes of Joe Canning underage and Shefflin. Were you aware of what you were doing back then?
To be honest with you, I didn't really pay much heed to it. I suppose I was so young. in the minor final in 2006, obviously there was a lot of talk about Joe Canning and that, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't have paid much heed. I wouldn't have took much notice to what other people were doing at that stage, because I said to you, at that time I was just, barely just trying my best to hold on and try and make the team and make the panel. At that stage, so I wasn't really worried about who was in the opposition teams. I was just like, God, well, I just had to perform here today and stay on the team or stay on the panel, and so look, I wouldn't have taken much heed of that, obviously. And when I marked Henry earlier on in my career there in 2009, I suppose I was a bit more aware of what was being said and what was going on around me and who obviously he was and what he had done. So, but again, I suppose it is easier when I find it was easier when I was younger, a bit more carefree attitude, and look, if things go well, then you're on a winner. But if things didn't go as well, then people say, well, they're the best players in their respective game or team for their team. So it wasn't something that really bogged me down. But I certainly probably was more aware of it as I got older and starting out my career. Right.
So if you're going out to mark and you're going to be marking somebody who is one of the best in the game from an attacking sense, how do you prepare for that?
Well, I suppose it's more kind of later on in my career where I kind of go back and do more video analysis and stuff, where you can look over clips of other games and maybe games you've recorded that you can actually study players more. Back when I was starting out, I don't think it was really that wasn't really as much thought of as it is now. It's more kind of go out and worry about yourself and your own game. Whereas now there's a bit more time and effort put into opposition and opposition players. But no, not really. At the start, I didn't really kind of, whoever was marking, I was marking, and if the coach or the manager would tell you one or two things in the dressing room beforehand about maybe certain things they might do, you take it on board. But certainly at the beginning, it was more, as I said, goes back to just being more carefree and going out and just doing the best you can do and showing your potential and showing what you can bring to the game, So I suppose, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that video analysis and stuff has come more important, because do you overthink things more now than you did before when you were younger? It's funny, so but you just go with the times like everything else. But at the start, no, I was more kind of just carefree and go about my business as best as I could. And I felt that would kind of suit me best back then.
What about now? Would you lose sleep over games? Are you that type? If it didn't go your way?
After games?
Yeah.
Definitely you would. You get really frustrated and kind of, I suppose, maybe obviously if you lose, you're disappointed. And there's so much emphasis and there's so much effort being put in at the moment that obviously things don't go your way, then you're going to be kind of, you are going to be disappointed, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be kind of, might find yourself overthinking things. What did I not do right? What did I not do right in my preparation leading into it? And, maybe there's different things you could be writing down in your diary, like, I'm going to do this in the game, I want to do this, and next thing you don't do it, and you're like, why didn't that come into my mind or whatever, So there's different aspects, and I suppose that just comes with the game is getting more professional, each year. Like, if you said to me 10, 12 years ago, like, could the game get any more professional in terms of preparation? I said, no way, like, how could it? Like, but here we are 10, 12 years later, I'm like, geez, this thing is getting out of hand. Like, how much more how higher can we take this, But look, you just move with the times and you move with it and you're always learning. But you do get, I personally would get upset or frustrated after a game. You put in so much effort, day in, day out to be right and try and get the best result and try and, play as best as you can for the team. And if it doesn't work out, then you're obviously going to be kind of like, what do I have to do to get this thing right? But again, that just comes with the territory of the position we're in.
What has been the biggest change, have you noticed, we'll say, from when you started to when you are now, in terms of just how professional it's got, like the thing that maybe surprised you that you're doing now that you never thought you would be doing?
Yeah, like, as I said, back when I started out with, I suppose, senior at Tipperary, like, there was, obviously the gyms were strength and conditioning was getting big at that time, and it was all about, getting as big and strong as you can, and for physicality. I suppose Kilkenny were dominating at the time, and they were probably known as a physical team, so we were all just trying to get as big and strong and physical as we could. And then after 3 or 4 years of that, then it kind of changed. I felt to more, was about being, very lean and fast and agile, and so you have to change your whole, you change again, I suppose, in terms of your mindset of, what way you want to prepare, and that now you kind of find yourself coming back to, you see the likes of Limerick and other teams, or Galway, are big, strong teams, but they're fast and agile as well. So you're kind of doing the whole lot now. You're getting big, strong, fast, agile. You're just doing the whole lot now, really. Like, you're trying to cover every base, and that's what I mean by it's getting so professional, and the levels are being driven up every year. But, I suppose that comes with Kilkenny winning. We won a bit. Kilkenny came back and won. Galway brought it to another level. Limerick brought it to another level again. So it's always been brought up level. So teams are just chasing and striving to get the better of another team, and it's driving every team on. And as I said to you, we're just getting more and more, there's more and more emphasis being put on everything now, really, from strength, conditioning, nutrition. So as I said to you, I don't know where the bar is going to not stop being raised by teams, but that's what's all. I suppose elite sport is about, and no matter what sport you're playing. So it's very challenging, but it's very, very exciting. Very, I suppose, it's great to be part of. Like.
So what stage did you think, so you're called into the Tipperary senior setup, what stage did you think, okay, I'm able for this, like I can go on and win All Irelands and have a long career and just kind of make it really as a hurler, because like that's the dream, and making it is playing for your county and, winning the Liam McCarthy?
Yeah, I suppose for me it didn't really click, really, really seriously till like you get on the minor teams, and I was part of two successful minor teams, but you're still away, you're still a nice bit away from getting that call up to the senior panel. I played I played 1 year under 21, and we were beaten in our Ireland final. And then it's not really until I got the senior call, really. I said to Liam, as manager at the time as well, and he called me to come onto the panel. That's when you kind of really, really took focus and said, right, this is really happening. For me at minor, you see so many players at minor dropping off, that don't push on and make it, and like you don't know. You need a bit of luck along the way as well, and thankfully, I did okay, and then campaigns and rage, and then I got a bit of a run at my club as well, so it wasn't really until Liam gave me the phone call back in 2008, said winter 2008, that kind of really hit home. Says, right, this is my opportunity now, and I have to take it with both hands. I knew I was on the right path, being part of good teams underage, and being part of a decent club team as well. But it's not until your foot is in the door that you really take it and grasp the opportunity.
So when you look at your career, and obviously it's been fantastic, 3 All Irelands and 6 All Stars, who has had the biggest impact on your career?
Geez, that's a hard question to answer, Marie.
You can give a few.
There's so many people. Like I can just think back to my underage days in Thurles in Thurles here. Like there were so many people that helped me along the way there. You talk about school teams. Playing Harty Cup in Thurles CBS was a major development in my time, and as well as a player. And then, like, I suppose straight away 3 people kind of stick out in my mind in terms of development, like over my whole career. My uncle Paidí Maher would have been a big influence on me in regards, because I started playing senior at my club. Paidí was coach of us, and we had a successful 2 or 3 years with him, and he really developed me, and I can say a lot of the lads in the club, hurling wise, as in terms of development through hurling training and hurling skills and that. And he came back again later on in our club careers as well, there the last number of years as well, and he was very good, very important part of of all our development. Game and Shading will be another one. It makes you think about the game different ways. He could confuse at times, but he's just the way he thinks about the game. The way he talks to you about the game and gets points across. He's just been a major part of my career. He's more or less been there my whole inter-county career, maybe bar 1 or 2 seasons. So he's had a major impact on my hurling career. And obviously Tommy Dundon as well. I had Tommy as a coach at minor 121 and senior on 2 occasions, and he's obviously presently our coach as well. So Tommy's been a major influence. Like, we looked up to him as a player as we were growing up, and then to have him as our coach, and he's nearly more determined as a coach than he is as a player, which I don't know how that is possible, but he is anyway. But it's just the different people have touched me in different ways, positively over my career, in terms of my development. But them 3 kind of stand out to me as well, and just in terms of my hurling career and my hurling development.
And if you look at everything that you've achieved, and obviously you still have lots more to achieve, what do you think has been your greatest success?
God, that's a hard one. Like, just so I've been lucky enough. I had a bit of success in my club and the tip as well. Obviously, like, my greatest success, like, to me, I'm so lucky to have won different medals and stuff like that and be part of good teams. But for me, major success for me is actually just making it as an inter-county player for Tipperary. As I said to you at the start of our conversation there, like, looking back at the late 90s, early 90s, and going to the games with my father and my mother, and watching all these players, whether we were from Tip or outside of Tip. As I said to you, Clare had great teams. There was players I admired with them. I was a great admirer of the good Waterford team as well, and that were very unlucky not winning All Ireland. And obviously the Kilkenny teams were, there's heroes of mine and them teams as well. And going and watching all them players and seeing what they were doing to people around you in the stands as a young person, elderly people jumping up out of their seat, crying, laughing, distraught, happy, you're seeing what they were bringing to people's lives. And you're just saying, like, I would just love to be out there, like, and it's something like when you're 9, 10, 11, 12 years of age that it seems so far away, and it seems like dreams. It's like to win the lotto, like, you dream of what you don't think will ever happen. But so just to get, to represent Tipperary for so long, and being lucky enough then to be a part of good teams as well. Like, I think that's the major part, and that's what I would call a success to me. Is getting to represent Tipperary and seeing, I suppose, as you said, you're touching people's lives in different ways, and I suppose I take a great, satisfaction and privilege at that. Is
there one All Ireland that when you think of All Irelands, when you think of the Liam McCarthy, when you think of Croke Park being full of fans, that you just go to that one of the 3?
Is it one we won? Is it, or lost? Or
well, it can be actually anyone.
Yeah, no. Obviously, when you win, it's great. They stand out in your mind. Thankfully, we've got over the line a couple of times, but for some reason, the ones you lose stick out in the mind more than There's a couple of games that we lost against Kilkenny in finals that you'd be kind of saying, we leave it behind us, and you kind of regret it a bit. Lucky enough, I've been part of 3 winning teams. But you'd be kind of, I don't know, is it the GAA mentality or whatever it is? But I'm looking back saying, could it be 4? Could it be 5? You're always you always want that bit more. Even though, as I said to you, my greatest privilege was getting just to represent, and great success getting to represent Tipperary. But I'm being greedy then, and I want more. So. 2009 All Ireland, I suppose, really sticks out in my mind. And as you go back to your question, really, that it's my first big massive day, and it was my first season, and we were playing against Kilkenny. They were going for 4 in a row, whatever it was, and it was just a game that really felt that we could have won, and that kind of always sticks out in my mind. It was a great occasion, but the ending wasn't great, So that kind of sticks out in my mind. I took positive things out of that game, but obviously in the day we were there to win, and fortunately we didn't. So that kind of sticks out in my mind really. Unfortunately, to think to be one of the good ones, but no, that kind of really hits home that day.
Are they your just ultimate rivals, even still, like Kilkenny?
I think the rivalry was built up because we played each other so much over the last 10 years. As I said to you, I have utmost respect for Kilkenny. Like I said, some of my heroes, people I admire the most, play for Kilkenny, and have played Kilkenny over the early, the middle of the 2000s, and even I got to play against some of them, which was great. So I have the utmost respect for them, and there's a massive rivalry there. But at the end of the day, they're one of the best. They were one of the best teams there for 10, 15 years, and we got to play against them on so many occasions. They got the upper hand a number of times, but we managed to get back at them as well as a few times. So they probably were our biggest rival because we played them so much in such big games. The beautiful thing about from Tipperary is we have so many rivalries. I think we have a rivalry at every county we play with. We're surrounded by so many of them, but yeah, look, the Kilkenny one is definitely up there still anyway. No bones about that. I think that nearly comes more from the supporters than it comes from the players. So there's a bit of history to it. So it's great to be part of them all. As I said, going back to the point when we're from Tipperary, we have a lot of rivalries around, even in Munster alone. So look, it's great. It's all part of the history of the game we're playing.
So when you look back at every game that you've played or every big game, it doesn't actually have to be big games, but when you think of yourself as a hurler and the type of hurler that you want to be and that you've always wanted to be, is there a performance that sticks out in your mind that you go, right, that's when I did exactly what I wanted to do. That was my complete performance, the performance that defines me?
Just to be honest with you, Marie, any games that I thought I really, stood out and I played very well. And it's I remember watching a documentary over the lockdown, Dan Carter, he said 2005 Lions tour against the Lions. They said it was the greatest individual display by a rugby player, Dan Carter, in the second test or something. He said, I was just in my flow. And then Michelle always talks about that when you're in flow state. Honest with you, anytime I got to flow state, I don't remember what happened in the game. You just went with it, so any of the games I think back on where I was, people said you played well in that. I don't really remember them because you're just in the zone or in flow, as they call it. And that's I find the difficult thing about sport is when you're in flow and you come out, you say, Gina, everything really went well for me there. What did I actually do that? What did it actually do that made me play so well? Or so you're trying to do everything you can lead up to another game the same as the last game, and it might work out the same. You're like, oh God, what was it like? So I suppose when you get into that flow or state of mind, it's that's why it's so hard to get there the whole time. So it's hard to kind of define what game or I played my best in or anything like that, but just a few games that stand out in my head. But I said it's hard to remember them because I hope it made sense there that it's so hard to remember because you were just in the zone as they call it. And I said if we could get to that part of our game every day, we'd all be great. We'd all be playing out of our skins. So there's a couple of games that stand out, but I said it's very hard. I find it very hard to recall some of them games in my mind, exactly what went on.
That makes sense. All right. It's like you're just in the moment, living it right then. And I'd say that's very enjoyable. So what about setbacks? For you, when you think of the last decade or so, or even beyond, what for you has been the biggest setback, the biggest thing that you've had to overcome?
Setback. I've had, I suppose, I've been lucky enough in terms of injuries and stuff throughout my career. See some of the players there that have, got serious injuries. I see one or two lads in my club. Billy McCarthy and a few others have got serious injuries, and the setbacks they've faced, I've seen it through, Tipperary over the number of years as well. you know, players suffer with injuries and setbacks, and you know what they have to go through to get back to the top of their game again. So lucky enough in that regard, I haven't faced any adversity in terms of that. So the biggest setbacks I suppose I faced really would be, you know, losing big matches, you know, and not playing probably well in some of them. You know, they're the ones that they're setbacks to me really, because as I said, you know, you put so much time and effort into getting yourself, you know, prepared the best possible way you can. You train so hard, you're making so many sacrifices in terms of family, friends, you know, everything in your life. It's all just driven to one thing, and you're a bit selfish in that regard. And then if something doesn't work out, then you know you kind of feel like, you know, and you haven't performed well, you kind of feel like a fraud in a way, that you're like, you're putting so much time and effort into this. You're being so selfish in terms of your own life compared to your family or friends. You know, you're not giving them as much as you're giving yourself. And then if it doesn't work out, you're kind of like, you know, you feel a bit like I said, you're like a fraud, that, you know, people looking at you, you think, you know, what are you doing? Like you know, it's not working out, whatever. So, I suppose losing big games is a tough one to take. I suppose we went on a run there from 2011 to right up to 2016, where we were getting to, you know, All-Ireland finals. You know, Kilkenny were just getting the upper hand and all of them, you know, and you kind of think, like, are we ever going to just, you know, is that it? Are we done? You know, so I suppose that period of time was tough. I wouldn't say it was setbacks, but it was a challenging time in my career. I know that, you know, you're always getting to the latter stage, get the All-Ireland final, you're beating a replay, you know, different things, and you're kind of saying, gee, will we ever get back to, you know, the height of winning Liam McCarthy again? And thankfully we did, but definitely that stage, 2011 right through to 15, 16 was a challenging time. As I said, I wouldn't say it's a setback, but it was challenging in terms of my career.
I'd imagine as well, just knowing the nature of being of intercounty, being an intercounty player, that it's so all-consuming, it's so intense, and people are so obsessed with it that although you were going through it and living it, I'd say people wanted to ask you why it was happening as well. Like, was there times when people were coming up to you going, "When are you going to win again?"
Yeah, it's like we had the answer, and we didn't want to tell anybody about it. Like, you know, it is exactly you mean, but like I said, people are so, you know, passionate about, you know, hurling or football, but GA in general, you know, and you know, they just want to see their county do the best they can, and then when things aren't going as well, they do get frustrated as well as the players and that. So, look, unfortunately, we don't have all the answers when we lose a game. If we did, we would have been in that position. So, yeah, look, it is tough, but you can see what it means to people, and even now, the times we're living in the last 12 months, you see what, you know, sport and means to people and the local communities. And, you know, as I said, what I give to get back in that situation. I meet a person on the side of the street a few years ago, saying, you know, what could we do, or have you the answers to it, you know? So, yeah, look, it does be challenging, and I suppose when you're in the position that we're privileged to be in, we're putting ourselves out there, so we have to take the good, the bad, and whether that's criticism or whether it's praise, I think you have to take it with a pinch of salt, and all you can do is try and prepare and be the best you can be, whatever, you know, position we're in.
Is it hard to deal with the pressure though? Because like when you did win All Ireland, then everyone was calling for 2 in a row. So like, you know, it's almost like you get something and I'm sure you want more too, but everybody wants more from you then as well.
Yeah, I suppose especially in Tipperary, there's a lot of, you know, emphasis. Anytime the tip have won All Ireland, you know, or can they do back to back? You know, that's always going to be there. Like, but if Tipperary had managed to win 2, they'd say, well, can we do 3 in a row? Like, you know, so there's always going to be that bit more asked of you in terms of that. And as I said, that comes back to when you're part of elite sports. You know, you see the rugby players there at the moment, the Irish rugby team. You know, they're always being, you know, they win games, and you know they're being questioned again, can do it better or whatever, you know, or even soccer teams there. So you're always going to be, no matter how high you get to in the sport, or how high or how well you do in, you know, hurling for us, you're always going to be, you know, can you do better, you know? So look, that's just talk, that's the GA talk, especially look, you know, something like the 2 in a row, can you do 2 in a row, and you don't do it, then you know, you have to start all over again. So I think that's all that comes to the territory of playing, you know, inter-county hurling or football, that, you know, eyes are going to be on you and you as a player and on your team. So as I said, you could get praise one week, you have to take that a pinch of salt. You could get criticism the following week. You just have to learn from it and move on.
Okay, you're still playing, so I'm not going to ask you what your legacy will be, but I'm going to ask you, what's next, do you think, for you and for Tipperary hurling?
Yeah, sure. I suppose, look, if anything the last 12 months taught me, it's I suppose, to appreciate the small things and appreciate the position I've been in since, for the last 12, 15 years, you know, of getting to play for Tipperary and represent, you know, from minor right through to senior Tipperary, you know. So I suppose if anything, it's made me realise how privileged position I'm in. So I just want to get the most out of it as much as I can. I'm not, you know, 22 anymore. I'm 32. So I know I'm coming to the latter stage of my career, but I'm just taking it, I suppose, week on week, and as I said, just living in the moment and trying to train as hard as I can and when I can, and prepare as best I can, and, you know, put myself in the best position I can to help Tipperary be successful. And as I said, that's all I can concentrate on at the moment is you know, I'm getting older, as I said, so I just look after myself a bit better and just try and get the most out of it as I can, because I suppose we've had a kind of a taste of what it's like to be taken from you. So, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do when I retire, because I have to say, the last 12 months taught me is, you know, you're so consumed into this one thing that you have for the last 10 or 12 years that when it's taken away from you, you're lost a bit. So, hopefully we can just get back training as quick as we can and get back to enjoying what we've been doing since we're 7 or 8, and seeing where it takes me this year anyway.
Well, I think you speak for everybody there when you say we just wanted to come back soon. Paidí, thanks so much for sharing your journey with us. It's not over yet, so best of luck for the season ahead. I hope everybody enjoyed listening and watching. Please subscribe, like and leave a review.